So there was recently an incident in Hollywood. One of these Hollywood elitists on set, we're going to refer to him as AB, had a little mishap and somebody died. Now, he had a prop gun, which really wasn't a prop gun, it's a firearm. He has the IQ of a wet napkin at best, this guy. Always bashing the NRA, never bothered to take any kind of safety course or anything like that. And he's saying, well, I never pulled the trigger. I didn't get the hammer pulled all the way back, and I let go of it and it went off. Well, here we have an F. Lee Pietta 45 long Colt. It's a replica of the 1873 Colt, which was by far the most popular revolver used by cowboys back then. It is inherently an unsafe firearm for more than one reason. And the proper loading of it, you go half cock, you open the gate, you put one in, you skip this chamber, you put four more in. 1, 2, 3, 4. You close the gate, you pull the hammer back and drop it, and it comes down on that empty chamber. The problem with it, it's got the floating firing pin. So if you fully load it and you drop it, this thing's resting, that firing pin's resting on a primer. Then cowboys would be like throwing their saddle on their horse, and it would hit that hammer and boom, they'd shoot themselves in the foot or the leg, or just have one go into the ground. They just feel like an idiot, whatever. But that's why they do that. So the hammer always comes down to that empty chamber. Well, AB claims that he didn't pull the trigger. He didn't get it fully cocked and he let go of the hammer. We're just going to poke a little hole in that story right here real fast. Though it is inherently an unsafe firearm because of, like I said, they did build some safeties into them. They actually can, if you drop it down to about here and let go, that the hammer can't go forward and hit, but nobody ever carried them that way. They just didn't do it. Although, if you watch in the movies, you'll see sometimes when they go to drop their hammer, they will do that. So I guess some guys probably did. The gunfighters wanted all 6 probably, so they probably did that. But still, if you slip, boom, it's going to go off. So most people just opted to put it on a empty chamber. Now, these things, the Italians, this is Italian made. The Italians are obsessed with cowboys and the Old West. I don't know if they all think we all still ride around on horses and have gunfights or whatever, and they reproduce a lot of these old, Remingtons and Colts and rifles too, all kinds of stuff, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good quality. They work pretty well, for the most part. They even went to the great length of a 4-click hammer, and I'll show you what that is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's ready to fire. Supposedly, I didn't talk to Mr. Colt before he died, so he couldn't tell me. Supposedly, people say that stands for COLT. I don't buy it, but it could be true. But, so, he says, I didn't get the hammer pulled all the way back, and I let go of it, and it went boom. I never pulled the trigger. Well, let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Oops, look at that. That didn't happen because it's impossible. It can't happen without pulling the trigger. Now, the other thing about it is, if you know anything about revolvers, whether it's a double action, single action, doesn't matter. There's a thing called timing, which times the cylinder so that a round is lined up with the barrel, so that when the hammer hits it, it goes off and the bullet goes down the barrel. So let's say, because people say, well, what if something was broken in that one? Okay, what if it was? Well, here's the problem with that. If you watch this cylinder, see that? See how that turned? It wouldn't be lined up. So the firing pin wouldn't hit the primer. If it did, just by some wild and crazy chance it did actually happen and it did go off, that chamber wouldn't be lined up with the cylinder, and he would have had a bullet hit the end of the barrel on the frame, and that thing would have blown up in his hand. So, I'm sorry, Mr. AB, but your story doesn't hold water. You pulled it back, you pointed it at the woman, and you pulled the trigger. Boom. That's what happened. Just let people know, you know, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to cover it up. I didn't do anything wrong. If nothing else, you know, not trying to save himself from going to prison, which he probably won't anyway, because he's a Hollywood elite and he'll get away with it. But the civil lawsuit, he's trying to avoid the civil lawsuit too. So he didn't do anything wrong, except that he did. He pulled it back, he pointed at her, and he squeezed the trigger. That's how these things work. This one, by the way, I bought specifically to bring it in and have it engraved AB edition. That's what's going to happen with this one. So, just FYI.